Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. Keeping Quiet is a simple poem about the need for a little bit of soul searching, which may help us to make peace with ourselves and others. It tells us how a moment of silent introspection will make us realize the utter futility of our aggressive endeavors. So here, Pablo Neruda, 1904 to 1973, is the pen name of Neftali Ricardo Reyes Bosalto, who was born in the town of Parinchel. Neruda's poems are full of easily understood images which make them no less beautiful. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1971. In this poem, Neruda talks about the necessity of quiet introspection and creating a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. So before you read, what does the title of the poem suggest to you? What do you think the poem is all about? So I think we have already understood that here the poet tells us to introspect ourselves so that we can realize the actual the actual utility of our life, how we can utilize our life for the betterment of the whole humanity. So here is the poem. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. So here the poet is saying us to count 12 and he is urging us to keep still. So looking for the benefit of the earth, let's join hand together and not speak in any language for at least for 1 second. If we do not move our hands, if we do not do any work, if the engines they stop working, so what will happen? Everything will be in silence. So when everything will be silent, we can introspect ourselves. So fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales. So what if we are quiet, if we join together, if we not speak in any language, if we all are silent, what will happen? So the fisherman will not work in the cold sea and he will not hurt himself. And the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. So and the man who is gathering salt will look at his hurt hand because he is very much busy in doing his work. So if everything is silent, so he will get some time to look at himself, actually what he is doing, why he is hurting himself, so he can introspect himself. So if he introspect himself, he will get the answer, he will get the reason for his working. Next page. Those who prepare green words with gas, words with fire. So actually words means like the world war, or there is a power play in the entire world. Like we are doing war against each other, that means there is a power play that is going on. Each one is busy in showing their superiority over the other. So why we are doing this? So victory with no survivor. So one day will come when there will be no survivor left. So in this show of power play, what is happening? Nobody will survive. So everybody will die. So there will be no one to enjoy or to celebrate the victory. Would not put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. So if there will be no human being left in the world, if we are so busy in showing our power, if we are so busy in destroying everything what God has given us or what nature has given us, so there will be nothing left. So we will suffer one day and we will die. What I want should not be confused. So what the poet is asking to the reader, it should not get confused what he is saying actually. So what he is saying with, so whatever he is saying, it should not mix with total inactivity. Total inactivity means death. So he is not saying, he is not referring to death, to be silent, to be quiet. Rather he is saying to be silent for few seconds so that we people can introspect ourselves. We can question ourselves, we can question for our living, why we are living. So why we are living actually? So we are living for the betterment of the humanity. So that is our first priority. Life is what it is about. I want not struck with death. I want no truck with death. So what? So the poet is saying he doesn't want a truck, which is filled with dead bodies. That rather, there should be a truck that should be filled with happiness, success, satisfaction, and not with misery and death. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing. So, we people are very much single minded, means we people are very much selfish. So, if we are not so much selfish, then what will happen? Then only our life can move easily. We can have a better life for ourselves. Perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. So perhaps there will be a huge silence if we interrupt this sadness. So if we can question this sadness which is surrounded, with which we are surrounded, then only we can get the actual meaning of life, and then only we can get the actual meaning of our living. So, lastly, what he's saying of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. So, we are being responsible for our death. There is nobody who is responsible for our death. We are responsible for our death. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now we will count up to 12 and you will keep quiet and I will go. So the poet is saying lastly that if we can understand the worth of life, if we can understand for what we are struggling so much, then only we can understand the meaning. So everything will be, finished one day. So nothing is eternal. Everything is subject to death and destruction. So the poet will go, but he has already, pointed you, he has put on a question that we must think, we must introspect so that we can get the actual meaning of life.